Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series. Tonight, we'll be looking at a topic, redesigning work in Nigeria, from job descriptions to job experiences. And I'm excited to have with us facilitating for us on this platform for the first time, hopefully of many, Oluwapemi Bello. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to read her profile, which I find fascinating. Pemi Bello is a human resource professional with over 7 years of experience spanning people operations, talent acquisition, learning and development, and HR business partnering. She has worked with organizations across emerging markets, aligning HR strategy with business goals to drive performance and engagement. She currently works at PFREE as a People Operations Manager. Proud to that, she worked as People Operations Specialist at the same organization. Before she joined where she is working right now, she was a People Success Partner at Ren Money, and before that, she was an HR officer at Profile Builder. She's passionate about culture transformation, learning and development, and of course, employee experience. She also serves as program manager for the Phoenix community, that she creates personal growth programs that empowers people to live intentional life. Ladies and gentlemen, she's a graduate of Communications and Language Arts from the first and the best University of Ibadan. Maybe so you know, I didn't go to UI, but I claim UI because I went to University of Ibadan Staff School and International School Ibadan. So if you spend 12 years of your life inside UI, a part of the degree show, ladies and gentlemen, in addition to that, she's certified with the Human Resource Certification Institute. She has the SPHRI certification. Speaking to us on the topic from job descriptions to job experiences, please, let's listen to Oluwapemi Bello. You have the floor. You'll have to unmute. We're just waiting for her to unmute.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes. You now need to share your slides again.
Okay. Kindly confirm you can see my slides.
Fantastic. Beautiful.
All right. So I mentioned when you said you went to ISI, I say yes, then a degree would have rubbed off on you at some point, right? Thank you so much for this opportunity and the platform to speak. And I must say, it's an amazing thing you're doing for us in the HR space, Dr. Adioshun. We are grateful. So today I'll be speaking on redesigning work in Nigeria from job descriptions to job experience. When I initially saw the list of topics, this one sort of jumped at me because this is something that I'm quite passionate about, ensuring that employees don't just wake up, drag themselves out of bed, and I'm going to work again today. It's something they're excited about doing. They feel plugged into um, the business goals and objectives. They don't feel like they're working in a silo. They can see their direct contributions into the business, basically. So this was a topic that really jumped at me, and that is why I picked it. Also, I apologize if I sound a little, um, I don't know the word, nasal. I have a bit of a cold. Yeah, so apologies in advance. All right, so I'll just go right into it. So we'll be talking about redesigning work in Nigeria, as I said, and we'll be starting off with a case study. Sometimes when we have topics like this, it can be hanging in the air because you feel like, has this been done before? Is this just another theoretical class? But case studies help to prove that it's been done before, and it's not just something that is hanging in the air. It's something that is quite achievable. So we'll be looking at Zappos as a case study. So, who is Zappos? Zappos is a US based online shoe and clothing retail owned by Amazon. Um, they have up to about 1,500 employees, and they may even be more by now because based on research, they said they no longer release the employee numbers, but at 2016 they were about 1,500, and they're famous for their strong customer service culture. So, what was the challenge with Zappos? In a retail organization, it's easy to have siloed roles. Maybe just customer service, someone that the only thing the person is doing is handling logistics, or maybe moving a box from one place to another. So the challenge was they had traditional rigid just job descriptions and titles. Then employees also felt boxed into narrow roles, limiting their collaboration. As I said, in that kind of large organization, it's easy to just be another statistic or just be another number, right? And hierarchy also slowed decision making and weakened agility. These days, we talk about agile operations, um, agile ways of doing things. But at Zappos, the hierarchy, imagine 1,500 people. That's going to be layers and layers and layers of hierarchy. So this slow decision making and weakened agility. Also, their talent was underutilized because people couldn't easily step outside their job box, which is probably an example of a lot of organizations that we see around today. So what did they do? What did they do? What was their solution? So Zappos adopted Holacracy. Holacracy is a self-management model where decision making is decentralized, and people work more in teams as opposed to layers and layers of decision making, right? So people work in teams and decisions are faster that way. Of course, they'll still get the buying of people. They'll still get the buying of people up there, but it was not so many layers anymore. It was just now more of, okay, based on this team, this is what you're doing, this is what you're doing, this is what you're doing. You can make these decisions. And if there is anyone that is let me say related to the life or death of the company, then you can reach out to the higher ups. What else did they do? They replaced fixed JDs with fluid roles that evolved even as work changed. So, for example, instead of just saying, oh, okay, in the maybe logistics department, instead of saying, no, the only thing you do is you are moving one box from one place to the other every day. Obviously, if someone is doing that every day, they will get tired, demotivated. It's a repetitive job. So what they did instead was to have, okay, this is your department, and you can be required to function, in any space at any point in time, as long as you are within this team or this department. So the logistic team, today you might be at the weighing area. Tomorrow you might be at the maybe zipping and locking area. The next day you can be at the attending or receiving orders for the customer service area, etc. So they replaced fixed job descriptions with fluid roles. They also introduced Glassfrog software. Glassfrog software works with the Holacracy self-management model, as I mentioned earlier. And what it helps to do is to now document those fluid roles, and to say, so it's somewhat like a Trello, but based on, okay, this is what this team ought to achieve, this is what they're accountable for, this is what they are responsible for, right? So they introduced that software. Another thing they did was they empowered employees to take on multiple roles aligned with their strengths and interests. Just like I mentioned. So, for example, instead of saying, oh, this is your job description as a person, they empowered employees to take on multiple roles. Today, you might be at this point you might be at this point of the value chain. At the other time, you can be at this point, parts that are aligned with their strengths and their interests. So, what was the impact of what they did at Zappos? agility was increased. So teams could adapt faster to new priorities. As things were changing, it was easy to move without the bottlenecks, of hierarchy. And it increased empowerment, ownership. Employees owned decisions and contributed beyond narrow job titles. With narrow job titles, it's easy to just say, this is what they said I should do, and I've done it. I move it to the next person's table, and well, it ends there. I've done my part. I'm waiting for you to do your part. But what they did at Zappos, it helped them own decisions, because it was more of, this is an entire department and this is the result that we need. Whether it's one person or three people that is getting it done, the result must come out. So it's not it's going beyond, this is your job, stop here and move on to the next person. It's ensuring that the result, the impact is made right as a team. Also, engagement, of course, improve employee engagement and their experience, because people now worked on tasks that matched their skills and their passions. And the company culture also shifted from hierarchy to a responsibility driven workplace. When I read more about Zappos, there were so many articles that spoke about, you know, the company culture at Zappos, and how, it's very employee centric, and how it encourages ownership. And then there was something interesting I even found about them offering $2,000 at the point of onboarding. So at the point of onboarding, after they immerse you into the training and all of that, once you are done, they'll offer you $2,000 to walk away, or like to quit, right? So what this helps them to do is to sort of cut out or know, okay, these are people that are serious, that are in here for the business, for the big picture, as opposed to people that are just looking for the next meal, or are survival based. So we can pick one or two things from Zappos, and we'll see that even as we go on. So yeah, we are talking about job experience, job experience, job experience. Why does this conversation matter, and why does it matter now? With the evolving world of work, especially amongst younger digital native generations, there's a need for organizations to shift from rigid hierarchical job structures to dynamic, engaging, and people centered work environments. So, a lot of people, I see articles on LinkedIn, people share their experiences about working with Generation Z guys. And, there's always a lot of complaints as to how um, any small thing they're shouting my mental health, or I'm bored, all those things. But the truth is, they are the future of work, and whether we like it or not, um, the baby boomers, the Generation X, they're already sort of nearing the twilight of their career. And what we should now be looking at is bridging the gap. It's sort of more like um, a relay race, handing the baton over. It's not it should not be a competition, and it should not be so much of an issue, if we look at it more of bridging the gap. So of course, the baby boomers and the um excuse me, the baby boomers and the Generation X mostly are nearing the twilight of their career, as I mentioned, and they hold the historical data as to how have we been doing before, that makes sense, that brought us to where we are now. And the millennials and the Generation Z are now looking as to how can we do this better? How can we collaborate? How can we ensure, okay, we get the same results, but maybe not with the same old long process? How can we optimize this process for better results? So it should not be looked at as the handing over. Let me put it that way. The handing over should not be seen as um it should not cause so much issues if we look at it as a way of bridging the gap. And one thing to also mention is there should be a middle ground. There will be a sort of compromise from both ends. So as I said, is marrying the historical data and how we've done it so far that has brought us to this point, from the baby boomers and Gen X, with the how do we do it going forward. Better processes, but still gives the same result, maybe even better results, from the Generation Z and the millennials. So that is part of, or that is why this conversation, that is why it matters now. So again, Why this conversation also matters now is there's a global shift, in work paradigms. The workplace is evolving rapidly globally in Nigeria. Up until COVID, no one knew that people could work from home, and there's now a lot of global talent exchange. So there's a global shift in work paradigms. People are already exploring 4 days a week work week, and they're already seeing like some level of success um, with that pilot testing, right? So there are global shifts in work paradigms. A lot of things are changing, and we can't continually stay. Excuse me, we can't continually stay where we are, because the truth is, if we don't move as the world is moving, the world will let me use the word leave us and go, right? And also, there's a youth dominated workforce in Nigeria. As I said, a lot of more um, Generation Z and millennials are more in the workplace right now, redefining what work really means. Because to be honest, Gen Z is not necessarily all about survival. They want to feel great at where they are working. They want to ensure that their employee well-being is well taken care of, and all of that. And if they are properly managed, we can get the best out of us. And I say us because I'm also Generation Z, and I take my work seriously, and I do what I ought to do at every point in time. So we are not all bad. Let me put it like that. If we are properly managed, you can always get the best out of us. There's also a rise of remote and hybrid work. I already mentioned that when I was talking about the different work paradigms we now have. And there's now demand for more meaningful work. People just don't want to go to work every day and let me just go and earn my daily bread. People want to feel connected to what they are doing. People want to know what problems they are solving. Not talk about brand storytelling, you're positioning yourself about what problem are we solving as a brand. People don't just want to do their work and go home. They want to see how they directly impact the bottom line. So this is why we have to shift from job descriptions to job experiences. And so what's the shift really? So I have a table from job description to job experiences. So first off, we need to make a shift from static roles to adaptive roles. I'm not saying we should no longer use titles, right? But people should not necessarily be limited to what they have in their JD. We should have adaptive roles such that as the business changes, because the truth is businesses will change. And when we have things like static roles, that's when we have to now have a whole what do they call it now? That's when you now have to have a whole rehaul of the workplace system, or letting some people go because they've always done one thing, and they've not been able to do any other thing. But if we have adaptive roles, people can easily move from one part from what the business needs at a point in time to the other. So it's important to move from fixed roles and tasks to fluid roles with evolving responsibility. So as new things come up, people take on more responsibilities such that if the business experiences a dramatic shift, people don't have to be let go. Why? They've been now used to other fluid roles. They've taken up other things even as they go. We also have to move from task based to purpose driven. I mentioned earlier that there's a high demand for meaningful work now. People want to feel connected to the job they are doing. They don't just want to be, you know how people can be when they are disconnected from a role. They don't give their best, and they just do what they can do. They just do what they can and they go home. But if I see that contributing directly, I can see the problem I'm solving, for the business. That gives me a sense of purpose. And what this does it encourages employee autonomy and co-creation, because they are no longer thinking as employees who just want to earn a salary. There's something Yoruba people say, Ogota Ogota, Owalaru Mape. Let me try and convert that to English. So is the mindset of whether you sell your business or you don't sell your business, so at the end of the month, I beg, just give me my salary. it removes that mindset. When there's co-creation, they're now thinking about how can I help this business actually make more money. So employees are now geared towards also thinking like entrepreneurs and in the business line, not just about let me do my work and go home. They can now spend time co-creating, thinking of strategies as to how the business can grow. So it gives them employee autonomy and co-creation. That's what comes with purpose-driven job experiences, as opposed to task-based, where you say, "Oh, go and do this, go and do this, go and do this." But if you say, okay, do this, let me see what you can come up with, and then you guide till they probably have something solid they can work with. Even the employee will be proud of what they've done, and they can own it as something they've done, as opposed to, oh, go and do this and they go, right? Also moving from hierarchical job description to collaborative. So in terms of moving from, oh, top down instructions to say, oh, go and do this for everything that you need to do. Before you breathe, you need to get an approval. That way people are not encouraged to think, to see what they can do, as opposed to being collaborative as to, okay, how can I join other teams? So joining other teams in this sense removes the I've done my job as operations team, now it's left to tech team to figure out the rest. Ownership means, and collaboration means, that I will continue checking in with the tech team. I will continue following up to ensure that what is done is supposed to be done. So there's some level of collaboration that is going on there, and employees are encouraged to see beyond their own work silos, or what they've been brought in to do, in quotes, right? There's also now, removing control and compliance in terms of the hierarchical side. I think this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do. Moving to engagement, innovation, and growth. As I said, collaborating with other teams as to how can we make the company better. So this is the shift that we are talking about. So what are the principles of designing work in Nigeria, or designing or redesigning work in Nigeria? So the first one is the human-centered design. So design roles around people, not just tasks. So one thing we do in our recruitment at Free is to ask them, beyond what you're coming in to do, what other things interest you? Is it music? Is it baking? We ask those questions just so that if those kind of um, roles in quotes pop up, so maybe we need to do something for, maybe we need to have an employee engagement initiative, maybe a happy hour. I know, oh, this person bakes, this person is interested in music production. We can bring them into planning it, and they feel like part of the company. They feel like, oh, these people value me just beyond my role. So design roles around people, not just tasks. For a lot of people that we work with, these are the strengths and interests of this person, and these are the parts that the person is not so great at. So optimize those parts of strength, even while now try to push on, okay, alienating those areas of weaknesses, right? So design roles around people and not just the task. Also, incorporate employee feedback, sorry, into the role redesign. So even as you're trying to redesign the job roles, ensure that you incorporate their feedback. And this comes when we have, frequent one-on-ones, especially for line managers and their employees. This is one of the very important reasons of one-on-ones. Asking them how they feel about their work, what could be better, and or what they like and what could be better. So incorporate those feedback into their job role design. So say, okay, going forward, this is what you should do next. This is the gap you should fill next. This is a training you should take next. Excuse me. It shows that we are interested just beyond the number and the statistic, and we're interested in the people that are working with us. Then giving purpose and meaning. In fact, this cannot be overemphasized. I've mentioned this in about 2 to 3 slides. Let every day of a task, let it be linked to a broader let it be linked to a broader employee purpose. So for example, if something goes wrong, We can explain that this is how this links to um this is the ripple effects it causes on the general experience. So this is what the ripple effect causes on business goals and business interests. That way employees know that they're not just doing their things in a silo, and everything they do contributes to the bottom line of the business. Also create narratives to ensure that employees see their why am I here, what am I doing here, how do I contribute to the bottom line. Giving that purpose and meaning helps you redesign work for them and also redefine work for them. Also, prioritizing skills over titles. I've mentioned this earlier as well. Moving away from fixed job titles to skill-based ecosystem. Oh, what can you do? We are doing this project. Join us. Even if you're having maybe something tech related, there may be something that someone in marketing can contribute to that, or someone in content writing can contribute to that. Apologies, can contribute to that. So skills over titles. And there was something we did at Remoni that was quite interesting, and it was part of your KPIs, apart from okay, you've done your job, your technical competence solid, your behavioral competence is solid. You also have to now collaborate with another team entirely different from yours, to join them on a project. And it was really interesting. I think it was about I think maybe 5% of you know 5% weighting of your total KPIs. And it was really interesting, people joining in with other teams, trying to collaborate to also see what they do, knowing that, oh, I'm not just on my own. There's a whole ecosystem that is working together to ensure that business goals are met, right? So skills over title. It also enables cross-functional mobility, or if there's an internal redeployment or something that has to be done. It also sort of helps to reduce schema risk, because when someone else is looking at, oh, this is what somebody is doing, it's easy for them to pick up. Maybe if someone is ill, for a day or something. So encouraging that cross-functional collaboration is very, very important. Next, we have flexibility and autonomy. So allow flexibility in how, where, and when work is done. We've moved from, people have, or should I say people, or people have moved from, oh, um, this is how you must do this job, this is how you must do this job. It's not a matter of, as long as the job is done, right? Yes, 9 to 5, but if I get it ready, if when I can comfortably work is in the night and get it ready by the time you need it, then that's fine, right? I don't necessarily have to do it at that time. So there's flexibility in as much as the result or the impact that is needed is achieved. And it also empowers employees to shape their roles over time. And even it also enables stretching, in terms of employees can go over and beyond, and that also begins to prepare them for the next phase of their roles. So they are going beyond, oh, this is what I have to do, this is what I have to do, stretching themselves. How else can I make the company better, or what else can I do better? Also, the last principle I have here is the continuous feedback and recognition. So I'm not a big fan of let's do I'm not a big fan of relying on just formal employee appraisals, the one we do every 3 months, or maybe for some companies they do it biannually. I believe that performance feedback should be ongoing. It should be ongoing. It's very important. Rather than waiting till after 3 months to tell me whether I've done my job properly or not. Let me know as we go, so I can um, you know, go back, go back to the drawing board, what's that word now? I can go back to the drawing board, look at, okay, what am I doing, what am I not doing well, and I can reiterate even as we go. Or sorry, iterate. Sorry, yeah, that was what I was looking for. We can iterate as we go. It's not just staying and then after 3 months you come with feedback. Oh, this is what you could have done better. This is what you could have done. But that's a lot of time that has been wasted, and better work that could have been done within that period of time. So continuous feedback is very important. Also, recognition. Everybody wants to feel recognized for the work they are doing. It doesn't have to be monetary. Give them a pat on the back, give them a your rock e card, People just want to feel recognized for what they do. So recognize good work. Don't be known to only speak when someone has done something bad. When someone has also done something great, applaud them. It motivates employees to do things that are better. So now we've been talking about principles of redesigning work, redesigning work, redesigning work. Premi, this is Nigeria. How do we now bring it home? What are the Nigerian specific considerations? So, what's the Nigerian context? Because, yes, you can't just carry something and just paste it. You have to adapt it to your local context. So, redesigning work, the Nigerian context. We have infrastructure realities. So, address infrastructural complaints, constraints rather. Excuse me. In these days of remote work, people have been crying, NTN is stressing me out. I've not been able to get any work done. There's power issues. Not everybody can get a solar up, right? So address and acknowledge this infrastructural constraint. We are not we are not in a place where there's light 24/7 and there's internet 24/7. We still have power outages, we still have internet outages. So address infrastructural constraints and acknowledge when maybe employees can't necessarily work from home or can't take on maybe a remote or hybrid working context. And you can also leave the power in their hands to decide. So will you rather do transport fare to the office, or you take care of power and maybe get a Wi-Fi? So acknowledge those infrastructural constraints. Don't just leave it hanging in the air. Then cultural dynamics. This is Nigeria, where a lot of people want to be respected in terms of calling them sir or ma, and as opposed to calling people first name basis, hierarchy versus flat structures. So also respect that in your context. So consider the generational and cultural dynamics and know how to adapt accordingly, because there are some companies that, yes, they follow hierarchy, and that change is not something that happens overnight. So you have to respect that and adapt what we are describing into your context, versus of decision making. So also acknowledge that. There's also the economic unpredictability. There's the part of survival as opposed to purpose based work. Some people just give me work so that I can have a meal on my table, so that I can have something at the end of the month. So there's also that mentality of economic volatility, where people don't know what next is coming. People don't know what policy is going to come and is going to throw them off balance again. So you have to build resilience into work models, acknowledge the economic unpredictability, but also now build resilience into those work models. Despite how the economy is, we have to keep going. Also help them to see that they are not the only ones going through it. The business is going through it as well. So that way they feel, again, it removes that silo feeling, as opposed to it's everybody that is going through it. This is also connected to the business. So we also have to keep finding ways to keep the lights on in the company. Then opportunities with tech. There are a lot of apps that can make work better and all that. But for one, those some of those apps are paid in dollars, and um given the also volatility in terms of foreign exchange. There's also that I may be paying maybe 10 million for this year, and by next year it has skyrocketed to 20 million, even though the dollar rates, even though the dollar amount is the same, but the rate is not favorable. So what can you do? Leverage local tech and innovation ecosystems. At some point in my company, we're using Bamboo HR, and when we saw that this, like, it was bearing a lot, the cost was a lot, especially when the dollar skyrocketed. Then we had to switch to a local tech, Seamless HR, and it has been working for us. So leverage local tech and innovation ecosystems. Acknowledge where you are in terms of the tech you can access, and leverage what you have. When you have, enough funds, then you can, yes, now start maybe purchasing foreign tech. So these are some of the Nigerian specific considerations that we also have to acknowledge. So we've said a lot so far, but what do I actually now need to do as a line manager, as an HR person? Remember, as HR, we are not just we've moved away from, pay salaries, recruits, and all those things, to actually now be thinking the entire HR chain. How do we partner with the business to ensure proper business goals, or the required business goals and outcomes? That's what we are doing. So how do we what are the actionable steps that I can take? So we've said a lot, but now let's speak from ideas to action. First thing you want to do is conduct a job experience audit. So it will be great to know your baseline. Where are we now? How do employees experience their roles? Is it just a static, let me just do what I want to do and go home? Or are people actually feeling what they are doing? Do they feel like they are contributing to the overall the overall business goal? How do they experience their roles? So conduct that job experience audit. Co-create job roles with teams. So have job design sprints or workshops. As I said, after having when you do one-on-ones, can take employee feedback as to how their role can be better, you know and then co-create the job roles with the teams. Job design sprints or workshops, we also have to sort of guide line managers through this process, because they might also still have that job description mentality, but we now have to guide them as to, okay, this is how we can shape this job role, to be more fluid, to create more autonomy, to create co-creation, employee entrepreneurship, and all that. So have job design sprints and job design workshops. Upskill managers for the new model. That's well, I already sort of mentioned that in my last point. So um speak to line managers for the new model. Can have sessions with them as to explaining, okay, this is where we are now, and this is what we are trying to achieve. These things will also like reduce turnover, also reduce the amount of hand holding that has to be done, because when I feel when I know that I'm directly contributing, or I have a co-creation mentality, I don't have to wait all the time for someone to say, do this. I'm also asking questions. Sir, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? So it also helps them as line managers. So upskill them for the new model, train them to lead with empathy and agility. How can their process optimize their processes? Mention to them to optimize their processes to make it more agile. Also align HR systems. Sorry, excuse me. Align HR systems to new ways of working. So align HR practices with the experience-centric model. So work it into your recruitment, work it into your onboarding. I mentioned earlier that when we recruit at Be Free, we ask people for their other skills and interests, just for us to take notes in case something opens up, that might be interesting for them, or there's a training for a line they're interested in, and we can also always direct them into that line. When they are doing the onboarding, ensure that they see the business as a whole, as opposed to, oh, this is your role, take and go. Let them see the business as a whole, so they know how they contribute in that general business ecosystem. Make sure they know what other teams are doing. This is what other teams are doing, this is the role of other teams, so they don't just feel like, oh, let me do and go. They know how they plug in into the general business, and how they are also contributing, or let me say influential in quotes, to the bottom line. It helps. So add it into your onboarding process as well. Let them know it, let them see it. You can add it, maybe what other teams are doing, or maybe short a slide for each department explaining what they do in this department, um maybe the current who is who on those teams, right? So add that into your onboarding slides. Add it into your learning and development. As I said, there may be employees that are interested in learning new things. So have tech boot camps from time to time. There may be some people that are interested in learning tech and you don't know when it's a come in handy, right? Have trainings. Um, so, you know, um, apps like Alison, Udemy, Coursera gives them a wide range of courses. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, oh, this is my job role that I'm doing now. It might be something they're interested in doing that may be something entirely different from what they are doing now, or that will lead them to handle bigger responsibilities even in their current roles or job description. So align HR practices with the experience centric model. Then lastly, prioritize employee voice. Um, Always measure engagement, employee net promoter score and not just output. Okay, this person, some people may be doing their jobs, but they are totally disengaged from the role. So it's important to not just think of output, but always measure engagement from time to time. Yeah. Final thought. The future of work isn't about what we do, it's about how we feel while doing it. It's not, and we know this, and at some point I was even thinking that is this actually the future of work or the now of work? But the now and the future of work is not just about, oh, this is what I do. It's also about how I feel while I'm doing it. I feel engaged. I feel like I'm contributing. My work has purpose and has meaning. I feel like what I'm doing is contributing to the bottom line of the company. I feel like my line manager appreciates the work I do. I'm not just a number. I'm not just a statistic. The company actually cares about me. So the future of work, scratch that, the now of work isn't just about what we do, but about how we feel while we are doing it. Thank you very much. Hello, sir. Hello. Okay. Dr. Yemi, thank you so much for your reactions.
Fantastic. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
So if anyone has a question or contributions or comments, this is a good time to express our thoughts, opinions, or seek clarifications. I'm checking the chat box to also see if there are any questions. That was an excellent, super excellent presentation. Thank you, Pemi.
Sir. Thank you, sir.
I see appreciation left, right, and center. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's unmute and let's thank our facilitator for tonight. Thank you so much. Eniola?
To everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Someone
Good
said
evening.
good evening.
Yes. So it's a good one you just did. Thank you so much for that insight. But I want to ask a question. It has always bothered my mind.
Yeah.
Yes, we are trying to bring job description to align with job experience. But there's always the thing I see in job descriptions. There's always this last statement and any other job assigned to you from time to time. Where do we place this? Because it's a question I'm always asking myself. Is it because we are trying to align this, or because we are just trying to create a room for people to be used? In my own word. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Like I totally get that. And most of the time I've always also thought about it. When you mean and any other, what does that even mean? More often than not, it's always it always breeds that any person can or anything can just be crammed into that. But the truth is, it should come from a place of job experience and not just a to be used, right? So, and the truth is, and I think that is always added to the contract because some employees can also try to play funny, right, and say, oh, this is not part of what you asked me to do, right? This is why it is also important to, as I said, align it into your employee centric into your HR practices. So during things like onboarding, you already mentioned that there's a lot of collaboration that goes on here. At some time from time to time, you might be required to collaborate with some teams, you know. And again, it's also dependent on how it is presented to the employees. So as I said, that part being added to the job description or most times in our employment contract is also to protect the company from some funny employees that might try to say, oh, but this is not in the job description. So it's now about how the line manager and the people team utilize that line. So as I said, it's also important to mention these kind of things upfront so employees are aware. So I don't know if this answers your question, Eniola.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a good opportunity to say good night and thank God it's Friday.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Femi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself. God
Happy
bless you.
weekend.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your weekend.
Mhm.